Hello, I'm Vicki, along with my daughters Jasmine, Cecilia, and Hannah, here at our summer kitchen. Welcome to Homestead Blessings.
Canning is one of the most satisfying homestead chores.
Seeing the colorful jars lined up on the pantry shelves and knowing that the family will enjoy the garden's harvest all winter long is well worth the effort.
So tie on your aprons and let's start canning.
Tomatoes are the first things I learned to can. And we're going to water bath today, which is a wonderful method to can tomatoes and other high acid foods like fruits and other high acid vegetables. This is a wonderful, easy process, and we've already started our tomatoes by pureeing them in a blender. So Jasmine, you want to tell us about all this from here?
Sure, we have, what you need to get started water bath canning is you need a canner or a pot to put your cans in to water bath. You'll also need a rack to put in the bottom, to cover the bottom, to hold the jars up off the bottom of the canner. And then you'll need some clean jars. For water bathing, you can use mayonnaise jars, recycled jars. Today we're using canning jars because they're good and strong and we like them. I think Mom has the lids.
And what is really a blessing, here's our little lids, and this is so wonderful. It's called a wand. And these little wands, you know, when you're warming up your lids, because you want to get your lids nice and hot to make sure the new lids with a nice seal. And I'm going to heat the lids in this pot here. This little wand is so nice because it has a magnet, and I can pull the lids out without getting
Burned.
Yeah, right. And isn't that nice? They call them wands. I love it. Okay.
And you'll also need rings, canning rings, to go on top of the lid. So you need to have all this ready. And then Cecilia, tell us about how we prepared our tomatoes.
Okay, what we did is we just took our tomatoes, our fresh raw tomatoes, and we cut them in quarters and we cut out the middles and cored them. And then we threw them in our blender and turned it on for just so many seconds, just so it's a nice pureed liquid here. And that's all you have to do to prepare them. You put them in your pot, and that's about it on the tomatoes, preparing them.
You can use this tomato puree in soups, stews, chili, just about anything. And this is the easy, fast way. You can do your tomatoes whole, but today we're showing the example of puree tomatoes.
What about ketchup?
Oh yeah, you can cook it down, make a sauce.
Oh, that's what I love, pizza sauce and spaghetti sauce. And it can be the same thing, and oh, it's wonderful. And just open that jar. And that's another thing I love about this. In the winter, we can just, or unexpected guests come by, we can just open a jar and we have pizza sauce or tomato sauce or what else? Ketchup. It's a blessing.
You can use it for a base for salsa too, and it works really well like that.
All right, we have washed our canning jars. These are Mason or ball canning jars that we're using. When you're water bathing, which is what we're fixing to show you how to do, you can use recycled mayonnaise jars, but today we're just going to use regular canning jars. And we wash them very well in hot water and soap and rinse them. And then with our jars, since we don't have electricity, we put our jars in our gas propane oven and at a very low temperature.
Like 150.
Like 150 to keep them hot. That sterilizes your jars. Now, if you don't have a propane stove or oven, you can keep them in very, very hot water until you're ready to fill them up and see.
Dishwasher is nice, you know, on the warm setting. Keep them hot. You want to keep them hot because we're going to put hot food in there.
Right.
Okay, and we've also washed them very well and checked for any nicks right around the rim. If you have a nick here, it won't seal properly. So you want to check for any little cracks or nicks in your jar.
One thing I like to do is right before we can, I like to go over the jar one more time with a little bit of water there and make sure there's no nicks. Not just nicks, we don't want any kind of particles of anything else right there because we want a perfect seal.
Okay, let's put them in the oven. Hannah, you can help do that.
Okay, we just put our regular canning lids here in this pot of water, and I'm going to set it on the stove and turn it on, and we'll just let it come to a boil. Or do we boil it for about
simmer it for
about what, 2 to 5 minutes, something like that.
And keep them hot.
And you keep them hot, so you keep them in your hot water, you know, till you're ready to put your tomato juice in your jar.
Okay, we need a funnel to start filling the jars. Apana, you want to?
Yeah, funnel. I have some funnels up here.
Oh, this is looking nice. We're gonna need a ladle.
We have our tomatoes heating so that it'll be nice and hot while we put them in the jar. And so we have our hot tomatoes in our hot jars. And then we have our water bather here already filled with water, about halfway, because as we put the full jars in, you know, the water level's going to rise. So we have it heating here so it's nice and hot, so everything's hot. And also another thing about your canner is you want a pot or a kettle that you have enough head space. You want 2 inches of water above your jars once you put them in here. And then you want enough room for it to boil. So keep that in mind when you're finding your canning kettle.
Most canners, don't they hold 7 jars?
Yes. You want something that holds at least 5 to 7 jars while you're
Right.
doing all this stuff. You want to be able to can, you know, several at one time.
Right. But our jars are ready.
Probably.
Now we just take 1 jar out at a time so the other ones can stay hot. And we put our funnel there.
We need our handy dandy. Oh, that looks nice.
And just start ladling the tomato juice and puree right into the jar here. Now you want to leave a 1/2 inch headspace. That's right.
And
In your jar.
headspace is the space between the food and the top of the lid. That's what headspace
I got
means.
my jar just a little full.
Yeah, and then Mom's going to have to wipe that off really good. And explain
Right.
that again, Mom, about why you want to.
Well, there's several reasons. You know, to make sure it makes a good seal. You want to make sure you have all the food away. And
Right.
I always go again on top.
Because if there's
put my
any
glasses
food
on.
particles right here on the rim, then the lid and the seal might not seal because that will keep, you know, air. It'll get air in there and stuff, and it'll keep the seal from working.
So I like to really make sure that we get that very nice and clean. It's not too hard. I just dip my little rag down in there while I've got that hot water going, and I just make sure.
Right, that's
And
good.
usually I go around one more
I think
time.
our lids, they've come to a boil, so they
Yeah.
should be hot enough now,
Okay,
right?
you need the wand, right?
I have the one.
All right.
Okay. And what we're going to do now is get the lids out. And sometimes a couple of them will come out at one time. That's okay. Just while it's nice and hot and clean. And remember, as Mom has said, to keep this nice and clean, you set the lid on there. And we need a ring. Where's our rings at? Right here. This part's called the ring. And you take it and just screw it on really tight, like that. And then we're ready to set it in the water, right?
Yep.
All right. And then you put it in where the water bath's going to be. It's that simple.
And when you're placing your jars in the canner, you don't want them packed in here. You want enough room so that they're not really touching. They're just,
Right.
I mean, they can be close, but you don't want them smushed in
Now,
there.
it doesn't hurt if they touch, right?
No,
Just
not
you
a
don't
little
want them
bit.
like crowded in there,
wanna
packed in
put the
there
lid
too
on?
tight.
Yep.
All right.
It is a blessing to be able to, when you see the beautiful tomatoes on the vine and you've taken care of them and you pick them, sure is nice to put them in a jar and have them a little longer, all the way into the winter.
To be able to eat them.
Oh, yes. Wonderful.
This is almost perfect.
All right.
Almost 7 quarts.
Grow your own tomatoes and do this, you're saving a lot. I think a half a bushel goes anywhere $20-something or whatever. So if you grow your own tomatoes, this is a real blessing.
All right, this is our last jar, isn't it?
Yay.
Sure
that
is.
ring on. All right.
So we're going to put our last jar in the canner. And it's hot, and we've got probably a 1/4 inch. So I think we're going to add a little more hot water because remember we want 1 inch to 2 inches of water over the tops of the lids. Yeah, and this is hot. This is a nifty little jar lifter when your
Because-
jars start getting hot.
Right, because you don't want to touch them. It's like, ouch, you wouldn't want to drop one. So this works really well just to lift the jars and put them in the hot water. And lift them out of the hot water too.
Yeah. Okay, we've got our 2 inches of water over the tops of the jars of the water bather. Our burner is on, so this is still heating. We're going to put a lid on it. And what we want to do is we want to bring this to a boil. And once it begins to boil, you can monitor the temperature because you don't want it like over boiling. You just want a steady boil. That's when you begin timing. That's called water bathing. And you want to let it boil for around 45 minutes for tomatoes. And once 45 minutes is over, you turn it off, and then you can get your jars out with the jar lifter. Okay, our water bather has been boiling for 45 minutes now. It's time to take the jars out. And Hannah, tell us how you do that.
All right, I'm going to get our handy little jar lifter like I had before. And we're going to just carefully lift these out because they're really hot. Now you're going to want to be really careful when you're using jars like this because they're going to be hot. This is not something you'd want like, little children to do because you want to be careful with it. People, you can get burned, but if you stay careful, everything should turn out just fine.
And tell them how you're placing those, Hannah, not too close together.
Right, because of the heat from the jars, we kind of given some space between them. Because what you're going to do is you're going to let these sit for about 16 hours because that gives time to let them seal. And if you disturb them, it will disturb the seal and they might not seal. So we're going to let them set for about 16 hours. And then after that, you can, let me set this down.
Test them, right?
Yeah, this is an already cooled off jar. It's already set for 16 hours. So what you can do is you can take off the ring because you really don't need that on there. Just store it somewhere till next time. And you can test by pressing there, and if it makes a little popping sound, then they didn't seal, and you don't need to eat that. You need to get rid of that. But if it stays indented there on the top and stays down when you press it, then it should be great.
Well, now actually, Hannah, after you just can it, if it hasn't sealed, you could put it in the refrigerator and you can't eat it. It's still good.
That's true. That's true.
6 months later.
Right. Sometimes you can even re-water bath it, like put it back in the water bather if you have several that didn't seal. Check your jar though, in case there's any cracks or anything. But if you did everything right, they should seal just fine.
Right.
What's so nice about this water bath method is that all your fruits are usually high acid. You can do peaches this way, you could do blueberries this way, and look, aren't those beautiful? These are going to be wonderful.
You can do strawberries too, right?
Strawberries,
Apples.
yes. Apples. A lot of your fruit, I believe most of them, right,
most
are high
fruits.
acid. So just about 45 minutes of boiling, in your water bath, you've got a nice can, and you can have this on your shelves for at least about a year, which is a blessing.
Another wonderful thing about canning your own food is you know what's gone into these jars. There's no preservatives, so it's healthy, and it also saves money.
And that's how easy and simple it is to do water bath canning. We hope y'all have fun.
Well, there was green beans in the garden, and now they're right here, and pretty soon we're going to put them on those shelves.
We're going to pressure can the green beans. Since they're a low acid food, we can't water bath them, so we need a pressure canner, and this is different from a pressure cooker. So we have our pressure canners here. There's usually 2 types. We like the ones with the metal to metal seal. They just fit right on there, snug. They also have these with the rubber seals, but you want to make sure that this is not dry rotted, that it's pretty new, and you wet this before you put the lid on. So you need your pressure canner. You need, of course, your vegetables, and then Mom, you can tell them about the clean jars and.
Okay, we sterilize the jars in the oven. Good, clean, sterilized jar is real important. This is a quart-sized jar, and we love canning in quart-sized jars. That's just a perfect size, and if you're a beginner, this is a good size to start with, and they're easy to find.
And they're canning jars.
Yes, yes, we want to use a canning jar. Sometimes you can use a mayonnaise jar and recycle other jars, but for this pressure canning, right, for the pressure canning, you want to use a good sturdy canning jar. Okay, so now what we've got our jar and we've got the green beans, and now we want to have nice new lids, and you can buy these at most stores, even grocery stores. Your local grocery stores have them around the summertime. You can buy them in bulk, and other places you can probably go online and find some. But you want a nice new lid with the nice rubber seal there, and then you separate it out. Thank you, Hannah. And then you would make sure, once again, this is how we would do it. And then you have these, and we call these rings. And so you just put that ring on there. After, you'll see how we do it. We'll just put that on there. And we'll make sure we'll have, that's our jar, our lids, and our rings. We'll make sure that we have a funnel handy. That's a nice canning funnel. Just fits right down in that quart jar, and we're able to fill our green beans in our jar. And sometimes you might want a little wooden spoon or something, pack it down in there. You might want some salt, and I think that is a teaspoon of salt to go in there.
When we're canning green beans, we're gonna fill the jar with green beans, and then we want to have some hot water on the stove to fill the rest of the jar. So we'll have green beans and water in there. So we have some water heating on the stove, and Hannah, why don't you turn on our lids? We'll need to get our canning lids hot so that they're ready to put on. And let's start snapping these beans. Y'all snap some more beans.
Now snapping beans can be a real blessing, because you get a lot of visiting done when you snap your beans, right?
Yeah, you can. It's very easy to snap beans. After you wash them, of course, you just snap off each end. And then you usually can just snap them right in half. You don't have to do them in any more pieces than that. And I mean, this is all you have to do to prepare the green bean to be put in the jars. It's very easy.
This is a nice summertime thing to do on the porch, isn't it? On the porch swing, yeah.
What's nice about canning green beans is the whole family can be involved in this. I mean, the little ones can snap the beans, the big brothers and dad can help grow them.
Amen.
And mom and sisters can can them. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. I think we have enough snap. Let's, Hannah, did you bring our jars over?
Yes, these are the clean jars. I just brought them out of the oven. It helps keep them sterilized. And also when you go to put them in the canner, they're already hot, so they won't break, from the shock of the hot water. And so you want those warm. They're not too hot, but they're nice and warm. So I think we can start filling these up.
What's nice is once you've gotten your jars hot, the glass is a natural insulator, so it'll keep them hot.
We also have the salt. What you're going to want to do is put a teaspoon of the salt in each jar, and you can either put it in the bottom of the jar first, or since she already started, I'm going to put it on top of these green beans. It doesn't matter. The salt's just for taste.
And you don't want to pack these in too hard, because we're going to pour boiling water over these, and so that'll fill the jar up nice. So just, fill them up. You can push down a little bit, but you don't want to squeeze in too many, because they won't can right.
Headspace, right?
Yeah, well actually, see, these are raw green beans, so they're going to shrink down.
Yeah, right.
So you don't really have to worry as much about headspace. I mean, you want your lid to fit on.
Yes.
So that's about.
I like to take another little saucepan and heat my lids in a little saucepan, and then I'll go over there and do that.
I can start putting these in.
So 7 quarts fit in a canner, so we're doing 7 quarts at a time. See, how many do we have now? This is a fast job.
I think actually we have 7 now, don't we?
Okay, I'm going to bring over a kettle of boiling water. Just go ahead and bring the lids over. Okay, now here's our kettle of boiling water. And what we're going to do, these jars are hot, the water's hot, so nothing's going to break. We're going to just fill these up. And we're going to leave a little bit of headspace. And headspace is the space between the top of the water level or vegetable level and the lid. So we're leaving about 1 inch of headspace, because these green beans have some water in them too, so they'll come out. So maybe we should we'll leave 1.5 inches to be safe. And then Mom's going to wipe the lids really good, and Mom, you can.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love this. You can get this many times at just a little grocery store in the food canning supply center or whatever, and this is called the wand. I do want to make sure that my rim has no salt particles and that sometimes I stick my finger down like that and go back around, so
Very
make sure
clean,
there's
don't
no
you?
nicks. Yes, very, very clean, so I get a real good seal there. That'll be a blessing. That's what we're going for.
Otherwise, if you don't have it clean enough, or if there's any cracks, then your jars won't seal, and you don't want that to happen.
Okay, so Hannah, you want to put the ring on for me? And these nice rings, there's another nice thing about the ring. Okay, is that you can use your rings again, but you want to make sure that you keep them after use. You want to make sure that you clean them and you dry them off real good so they won't become rusty, and that can happen. So we wash them and hang them back up on the hanger. I better get to going, huh? Okay.
Well, you can have some down here and we'll help.
Oh, great. Thank you. There you go.
I'll get you a lid.
There you go.
And I think I'll carry the canner over so it's on the stove and ready to go.
And it's always good, even though I'm cleaning the rim, it's real good for whoever's got the jar at the time to look one more time and make sure that there's no nicks at the top of the rim and that there's no salt or greeny beanies. Okay, I like the wand. Let me use that wand again. There we go. And if I got one, sometimes they like to stick together, but this is going to be great.
Okay, now it's time to put our jars of green beans into the canner. Okay, with this pressure canner, we put 2 quarts of water in the bottom.
Make sure that you read the instructions to your canner.
Okay, we're just going to put the jars of green beans down in here.
Start loading them up in here.
Loading them up. We don't cram them in here. 7 fit nice and comfortably without smushing against each other and touching. So, and we're going to turn the pressure canner on so it'll be heating. I put it on high because it needs to get hot fast.
And it would be a real good idea to, like I said, read your instruction book and follow a lot of common sense safety.
All right, before we put the lid on, we want to make sure we grease the lid here and grease inside here. You can use any kind of oil or grease, it doesn't matter.
Want me to help a little bit?
Help
on one side.
Yeah, you put it on there and I'll do it on this.
Okay, great. Teamwork.
It doesn't have to be real greasy or anything, just so.
Now why do we do this?
It just helps it fit better.
Yeah,
and
when you
it's
take it
sealed.
off,
Yeah.
it doesn't stick, so, you know.
Okay, now it's time to put the lid on, and we're going to put it on nice and tight. And we're going to go from opposite sides so it's put on evenly. And Cece, you can help me. Let me just screw this down. Some canners are different, so just refer to your book again. Okay, get that side. Great.
All right.
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to, this is heating up and pressure is building, so remember to be careful. This is hot, and we're going to wait for the pressure to build up inside, and then steam is going to escape. And once you see the steam escaping, you'll see it, it's a big white cloud. You want to start timing it 10 minutes before you put our weighted gauge, jiggler, some people call it. So we'll let the steam escape, and then we're going to put this little guy on after 10 minutes. Okay, now for green beans, they're low acid food, so we're doing the pressure canner, and we can green beans at 10 pounds pressure. Okay, so after the steam has escaped for 10 minutes, we're going to put this weighted gauge on there so that this helps keep the pressure at 10 pounds. And this little thing is going to dance around every, few seconds or so. You don't want it going the whole time because that's, your canner's too hot. You can actually turn it down after this thing starts dancing, and that's when you want to time it. And what that's doing when it starts dancing is it's letting off pressure and keeping this at a certain temperature. We let this jiggle or dance around for 25 minutes for green beans. Now some recipes are different, but we're going to do 25 minutes. And then after that, it's done. You turn it off and then you remove your jars. Okay, our green beans have been in the canner for 25 minutes canning, and we've turned it off and let them cool down. The pressure has gone down, and we're going to first remove the little weighted gauge or jiggler, and then Cece's going to loosen up the lid here, and it's time to remove the jars of green beans. And be careful.
Definitely want to be careful lifting this, just like
Away from your face.
anything hot. You don't want to put your face right in it when you lift it off because it's going to
Should I take
be a
that?
little warm.
Ooh, they smell good.
They do.
Smell
I know. It smells like dinner cooking.
Oh, wow, it does smell good. All right, we're going to take them out of here with our handy jar lifter.
All right. They're beautiful.
Look at that.
Goodness.
Beautiful green beans.
And
Wow.
they're ready. There's no more steps. They're ready, right?
Right, you want to let them set over here where you put them. You want to let them